It is 7 o'clock here in New York City. I'm Anne-Marie Green, and it's a big Tuesday in America after Donald Trump's historic landslide victory in Iowa. He's now one step closer to a potential rematch against President Biden in November. CBS News projects he won 51% of the Republican vote, even more than originally expected. The race for second was close. Ron DeSantis beat Nikki Haley, but just barely. For both, the results were good enough to keep challenging Trump in other states, though. Trump took the stage last night to talk about his victory and to congratulate his challengers.
What a turnout, what a crowd. And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world. I want to congratulate Ron and Nikki for having a good time together. We're all having a good time together. And I think they both actually did very well.
Well, the Republican field has also narrowed after last night. Businessman Vivek Ramaswamy dropped out after finishing fourth, saying that there is no path for him to the presidency. The results for second and third place came largely as expected, but with some surprises. Polls in Iowa suggest Nikki Haley would edge out Ron DeSantis for a second-place win, but that didn't come to pass. They both addressed their supporters after the caucuses last night.
They threw everything but the kitchen sink at us. They spent almost $50 million attacking us. No one's faced that much all the way just through Iowa. Because of your support, in spite of all of that they threw at us, everyone against us, we've got our ticket punched out of Iowa.
Tonight, I will be back in the great state of New Hampshire. And the question before Americans is now very clear. Do you want more of the same? Or do you want a new generation of conservative leadership? Trump and Biden both lack a vision for our country's future because both are consumed by the past, by investigations, by vendettas, by grievances. America deserves better.
So we have team coverage from Iowa to New Hampshire with our political team following all the latest developments for us. And we're going to start in Des Moines, though, with CBS News political director Fin Gómez. Fin, good to see you. So, there had been all this polling, obviously, leading up. All this polling leading up to the caucuses, but there were still some X factors that we weren't really sure whether or not they were going to have an impact. Yes, we talked a lot about the weather. Another X factor for Donald Trump, though, were all these legal challenges. 65% of Republican caucus goers said that they actually believe that Trump would still be fit for the presidency, even if he was convicted of a crime. Donald Trump seemed to be almost folding in these legal appearances, these court appearances, into his campaign strategy at times, not spending time in the state like other people, like other candidates did. How did we see this feeling about these court cases? How did we see it play out last night?
Hey, Anne-Marie, great question. There was a lot of talk about the weather here in Iowa before the caucuses. It's currently -7 with a real feel of -22, but that did not stop Donald Trump supporters for coming out and giving him that historic win, a margin of 30 points to his nearest competitor, Ron DeSantis. And to your point, he is stopping in New York today. He's going to be attending the E. Jean Carroll defamation trial, the hearing that's occurring today in New York City before he heads to New Hampshire. It's clear by the support that he got last night that it has not hampered him. It has only bolstered him. His supporters have essentially bought into that narrative that it's a political witch hunt, something we've heard just frequently from Donald Trump on the campaign trail here in Iowa and across those early state landscape. So clearly it has not impacted him, and it's only bolstered him.
So as you know, Donald Trump did not win the last time his name was on a caucus ballot in Iowa. Who voted for him? Who are his voters now?
You know, across the spectrum, what we saw in those exit polls across the spectrum is that he did so much better with evangelical voters. He did better with the college-educated voters. He won all but one of the 99 counties in Iowa. The one county he lost to was the one where the University of Iowa is located in, which is a much more progressive area. That one went to Nikki Haley by 1 vote, Anne-Marie. So across the board, you saw that he's essentially running as an incumbent here in Iowa. And I think that you know, because of the investigations, frankly, because of the trials that are occurring, it sort of galvanized the Republican spectrum here. And it's also notable that two-thirds of the caucus goers from last night believe that two-thirds of the caucus goers believe that Joe Biden did not win the 2020 election.
Oh, yes.
Something that has been found to be completely baseless. But by that account, by the results from last night, he remains the clear dominant frontrunner as he heads to New Hampshire tonight, where he's holding that rally.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating observation, Finn. That's something we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the show. Finn, I know you've been up for a very long time, and now you're awake very early. Thank you so much. So all eyes turn to New Hampshire now. That state's primary is just a week away after Trump's historic victory in Iowa last night. The attention moves to the next primary to establish who's really in second place. Trump still has a strong lead in the polls, and he's expected to have a heavy presence in the state this week, leaving Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis with steep mountains to climb if they plan to catch up. Joining me now with more on what's next in the presidential race are CBS News' political reporter Aaron Navarro and Jake Rosen. Good morning, guys. Good to see you. We're talking about what's next. So, Jake, let's set the scene for New Hampshire. What makes these primary voters different than the voters that we saw in Iowa last night?
Good morning from snowy Manchester, Anne-Marie. So the big thing about this primary voting block is that New Hampshire's primary is open, meaning that independents or undeclared voters, which may sway to be more liberal or more conservative or more libertarian, are allowed to participate. They do not need to be part of the Republican Party. That's different than Iowa, and it's critical because for candidates like Nikki Haley and for Chris Christie before he dropped out, they needed that independent and potentially some more liberal-minded voters to come out and help them drum up support and really give Donald Trump a good run for his money up here. And again, it's just one of those interesting factors about New Hampshire that you have to consider is that there is 40% of the state is independent, 30% Republican, 30% Democrat. So a plurality is what these candidates are going after up here.
So, Aaron, let me ask you this. You know, obviously, Trump's win in Iowa was more than what was the polls indicated. Does that sort of take the pressure off him for a big win in New Hampshire? Because there's been a lot of talk about Nikki Haley coming as close as closer than any other second place, I guess, candidate has thus far in New Hampshire.
Well, the thing to remember is these states are part of a bigger process, and a lot of the states after New Hampshire, in terms of the Republican primary, look a lot more like Iowa in terms of it's a more diehard GOP electorate. Take, for instance, South Carolina, where I am in right now, Nikki Haley's home state, a bit more of a conservative evangelical voting base. So, as Jake mentioned, you do get those more moderate independents in New Hampshire, where the voting just electorate may favor someone like Nikki Haley. But, of course, there is going to be pressure on former President Trump to carry that state that he carried in 2016 and also just assert his dominance over this GOP field.
Jake, what kind of pressure is Haley facing as she campaigns in New Hampshire? She's polling quite strong, but she's going to really have to have a very strong second place finish.
Yeah, a couple of things have changed since the last time Nikki Haley was up here. She was drawing huge crowds, and since then, Chris Christie has dropped out. By our CBS polling, a lot of his supporters may be leaning towards Haley, but again, there's still 7 days to go, so a lot could change. And some of those voters for Christie I know are Democrats, and they may just stay home or write in Joe Biden instead of participate. The other thing Nikki Haley has to do up here is consolidate that non-Trump vote and pull voters away from Ron DeSantis. as Aaron knows, him staying in the race really complicates things for Haley. She claims it's a two-person race, but the reality is Ron DeSantis is going to get a significant portion of votes here. That cuts into the votes that she needs to potentially beat Donald Trump in an upset. And one more factor, Anne-Marie, is Vivek Ramaswamy is dropping out. A lot of those voters, again, from our CBS polling and from just talking to voters up here, those voters might go to Donald Trump and are likely to, which means that his support might be bolstered a little bit more than it was just a week ago when Christie and Ramaswamy were both in the race.
So, you know, last night also, okay, we talked about Vivek Ramaswamy dropping out. I want to ask you, Aaron, about Ron DeSantis and his path forward. You're in South Carolina right now. If he doesn't have a strong showing in New Hampshire, I mean, what are the odds of him staying alive past South Carolina?
Well, the goal for him at this point, it seems, from talking to allies, his campaign is to outlast Nikki Haley and to become the last man standing, essentially, against Donald Trump. And, you know, they think that if Haley loses her home state, that she should drop out. And, you know, given how polls are looking like, that seems like the possibility with Trump leading this state. Now, the problem is when you get beat by 30 points the night before, can you raise enough money to keep your campaign going for this extended period between New Hampshire and South Carolina, about a month? But the play that they're making is simply just to be the last man standing. They're looking to compete in New Hampshire. They're going to be traveling to New Hampshire after doing events here in South Carolina. And then they're going to compete in South Carolina as well. But it's really making sure that they are the last man standing. They think on a one-on-one against Trump that clear alternative could lead to them finding some success.
All right, Aaron, Jake, thank you so much, guys.